So Isamaya has finally re-released eyeshadow palettes under this current rebranding, and I wanted to try them out for myself. I was kind of tempted under her previous branding, but they were limited edition and they were kind of hard to get and also very pricey. These ones are a little less pricey, but they're still expensive, so I was excited to grab them during the Sephora sale so I could try them out for myself and let you know my thoughts. So if you want to see swatches and hear my thoughts, let's go ahead and dive right into it. So Isamaya Beauty as a brand launched in June 2022, but it has recently undergone a rebranding to just Isamaya. So there's no more beauty, it's just Isamaya. And they did somewhat of a relaunch because they're now available in Sephora stores with a whole new approach to the brand. So before, the brand launched with limited edition collections that were one and done. You either got the collection or you didn't. There were no permanent products to the line. There were only these limited edition curated collections that had a very artistic edge that followed the creative mind of Isamaya French, who is a British makeup artist, and she has been in the makeup industry for well over a decade, and she has had her hands in different beauty campaigns, beauty brands. She's worked with celebrities. She was also the creative director behind Byredo. You might see some similarities in the current brand. And like I said, the brand underwent a relaunch and softened the edge a little bit so that they would be a little bit more, I would say, palatable to the Sephora audience. If you know anything about Isamaya Beauty, you know she pushes the limit. There is nothing taboo to her. Her previous collections, like I said, under the Isamaya Beauty brand, were BDSM, might we say, inspired. They were very artsy, very creative, and some of them were a little bit too edgy for me, a little bit too provocative. I mean, dick and balls. Let's call it out here. What? Who? No. And some people really love the edginess of the brand. Me personally, I don't mind a creative edge. I don't mind something a little bit more out there. But when I'm pulling out a lip balm, I don't need it to be phallic at all. So I was happy to actually see the rebranding, and even the prices got a little bit of a makeover. So the products have been tamed a bit, might we say, and the whole collection now contains permanent products. There are lip products and various face products in the line, but I was just waiting with bated breath on when she would re-release those eyeshadow palettes, because I was curious before, as I mentioned, but those prices and the whole chase was a deterrent to me. So now that they're available in Sephora and I am actually able to see them in store and swatch them, and if I don't like them, I can return them, let's be honest. And since the Sephora sale was coming up, I figured it was the perfect time for me to try these out with a little bit of a discount. So with all that being said, I want to talk to you about these palettes. So there are two eyeshadow palettes that launched. We have the Core 1.0 eyeshadow palette and the Core 2.0 eyeshadow palette. These are based off her original Industrial 1.0 and Industrial 2.0 collections, which also had eyeshadow palettes. The color stories in these palettes are very similar to these newer palettes, but the formulation, I've heard through the grapevine, has been modified slightly, but they still have that very shiny, grungy, metallic edge to them, which is not necessarily something that's up my alley, but I figured, hey, you can kind of teach an old dog new tricks. Even though I'm a matte girl at heart and I really don't love shimmer, I am willing to test these out and try them out just to see what all the hype is about. Are they worth it, or are they overhyped? And how is the formulation? Are they any different from other formulations that we've seen on the market? We're going to test that out today in this video. So without much further ado, let's talk about the actual palettes, give you some product information, then we'll jump into the packaging and of course the swatches, and then I will give you a wrap up and my final thoughts. So like I said, there is the Core Palette 1.0 and the Core Palette 2.0, and these each retail for $110. Yes, you heard me right, $110, and contain a net weight of 0.59 ounce or 16.8 grams. There are 14 shades in each of the palettes, but there are different sizes, so you'll see larger pans as well as smaller pans. But on average, that would give you 0.04 ounce a piece, which are small eyeshadows, but that's typically the size you will find in eyeshadow palettes. So on the Sephora website, it says these eyeshadow palettes contain 14 richly pigmented eyeshadows with high performance, long wear, multi-chromatic pearlescence, and excellent color purity and sparkle. There's a quote from Isamaya that says, "I'm obsessed with color development, so creating high quality pigments is one of my favorite things to do as a makeup artist. It's been amazing to see what our customers are capable of through the incredible looks they created with our first palettes. Now I want to see them take it further." And because the formulation is a little bit different, I wanted to make sure I read the instructions. So these say you can apply with brush or fingers, and you can add a mixing medium to pigments to intensify them or use as a liner. So pretty straightforward, nothing too different from other eyeshadow palettes that we've seen. So I went ahead and checked out the ingredient list. So the formulation is talc free, and the base ingredient is calcium sodium borosilicate, which is a fine shimmery glass-like powder used primarily in cosmetics as a bulking agent and to add sparkle and color shifting properties. There's also dimethicone, which is going to add slip and slide, as well as mica and synthetic fluoroflogopite, which is going to add to the shine of these eyeshadows. There's also some silica, a little bit of glycerin, and other mixing and binding agents. But what really stood out to me is that base ingredient. So at the base, we have this sparkly glass-like powder. I am intrigued. All right, let's go ahead and swatch these out. I'm going to show you these swatches in real time so you can see how they build, how they layer, and see the different textures, hopefully, and the different nuances to the formulations. So let's go ahead and jump into the swatches. So we're going to start out with the Core Palette 1.0. and I'll read the shade descriptions from the Sephora website. So shade 1 is Fetish. It's described as a pure ancient gold. And I would agree, that's what it is. It's like a dirty gold with a little bit of brown undertones and yellow gold sheen to it. Then we have Fume, which is described as a purple with magenta shimmer. And again, that matches the description. It's kind of a dirty purple. You almost see some gray to it, and then you see that pinky magenta shimmer. Then you have Fuel, which is a dark gray with green shimmer. This one is more of a moussey texture. Feels almost wet to the touch. And this one almost looks like a dirty brown with green shimmer and a little bit of gold shimmer as well. I don't really see a dark gray base. I see more of a dark brown. Then shade number 4 is Suspension. This one is a plum with a soft gold shimmer. This one again looks like it has a brown base with purple shimmer to it and a little bit of lighter lavender. Very sheer so far. Then shade number 5 is Heat. This is described as a champagne with gold shimmer. Let me show you something here. I literally just pressed this with my finger and it broke apart in the pan. Like, what is going on here? All right, here's Heat. This one is a very, very sheer champagne with some green sheen to it. Then we have Grip, which is a grungy iridescent green. This one is very stiff and it applies very sheerly. I don't want to press too hard in the pan because of what happened to the last shade, but those two last shades are very sheer. Then shade number 7, Flesh, is a pure ancient gold. Didn't we have a pure ancient gold before? Oh geez. This one is also very sheer and very stiff in the pan. Okay, that is a bust. Then we have Motor. Motor is a shimmery dark gold. This one is picking up a lot better, and it's given a blackened base with yellow gold shimmer. It looks just like a blackened gold if you ask me. Then the next shade is Ultraviolet, which is a violet with bright cyan shimmer. This one is also very sheer. As you can see, it's a purple with blue shimmer and blue iridescence. Very lightly pigmented, almost translucent. Then Initiator is a metallic green. This is a shimmery grass green with yellow gold shimmer to it. Also kind of sheer, but we get a little bit more pigmentation. Then we have Leather, which is a smoky black putty. And that is true, that's what it feels like. It feels like a putty texture, like a cream to powder. And the black is kind of more on the sheer side. It's definitely more sooty. Then we have Sweat, which is a purple blue iridescent shimmer. This one is a white with that blue and purple sheen to it. It's still sheer, not my favorite. Then shade 13 is Brass. Brass is a shimmery warm red. That one is pretty actually. It's like a coppery sheen. It has this beautiful pink iridescence to it as well. Then we have Whip, which is charcoal with purple sparkle. This one's also beautiful. It's like a gunmetal shade with multi-dimensional shimmer to it. So here are all 14 shades. There's a lot of green, a lot of gold, and a lot of sheer shades here. These 3 shades, extremely sheer. Like, I can't build these up any more than they are right now. This shade here as well is very sheer. So is this shade. So the most pigmented shades are probably this one, the black, which, okay, it's a black, and then this gunmetal shade. The others are very lightly pigmented. All right, let's move on to Core Palette 2.0. All right, I'm gonna try to contain my enthusiasm here. So let's start out with shade number 1, which is Sulfur. It's described as an orange gold. This shade is like a bright copper with yellow gold shimmer. It's actually pretty, but I had to build it up to get the pigmentation. Then we have Sodium shade number 2, which is a baby blue with gold shimmer. This one is a bit sheer, but it looks like a grade blue base with yellow gold shimmer, and you can build it up. It's a smooth shade, more on the satin side. Then we have Galvanized, which is a cool pink with blue shimmer. This one is also pretty sheer, but it has a really smooth color payoff. Actually feels pretty good, and the pink is really pretty. It's like a baby pink with a sheen. Then we have Cobalt, which is a matte purple with soft blue shimmer, which doesn't make any sense to me that you're a matte purple with, how? You shouldn't have a shimmer if you're matte, sir. Anyway, here we go, Cobalt. This shade feels like a putty or a cream to powder texture, and it's more of a satin dirty purple with a little bit of blue sheen to it. Also very sheer, takes a lot to build up. Then we have Ore, which is a metallic warm red. This one's a little bit looser, so it feels very flaky in the pen, and it's more of a coppery orange with red sheen and shimmer to it, and the shimmer is a little bit flaky. Decent pigmentation, it builds up nicely. Then we have Carbon. This one is described as a matte chocolate with soft bronze shimmer. This one again feels like that cream to powder formula or like a putty, and it's a beautiful chocolatey brown shade. I don't really see any brown shimmer. I mean, maybe a little bit, but that's such a stunning dark brown for like a smoky look. Stop it. Then we have Patina, which is a shimmery cool green. This one gives more of a light lime green vibe to me. It has a little bit of a yellow gold sheen. Really pretty too, more of a satin finish. Then we have Refraction, which is a brick red with iridescent blue shimmer. This one is similar to blue gold pigment that we've seen time and time and again. We've seen this from many different brands. It's like a dark red brown with blue sheen and shimmer. Really stunning, applies really well. It's a strong red brown base and the shimmer is a little bit more finely milled. Then we have Polish, which is a pink and orange duochrome. This one is a pinky copper with pink sheen. That's actually really nice. It applies well, but it is more of a sheer shade. Then Alloy is a wet silver shimmer. And that is true. It's one of those wet shades and it feels kind of chunky to the touch and it applies a little bit gritty with your fingers, like you can feel the texture. I'm sure you won't be able to necessarily feel it on the eyes. Well, you know what, let me not say that, but it definitely feels glittery and chunky and it's a very sheer base with just sparkle. So it feels almost like a gel glitter, if that makes sense, like a gel base with glitter to it. Then we have Oxide, which is bronze with iridescent yellow shimmer. I would say this is more like an orangey brown base with yellowy green shimmer. Doesn't look full on, like you see a little bit of green shift to it. Really pretty, interesting shade. Then there is Corrosion, which is a purple and blue duochrome. This one is also given more of a sparkly glitter overlay with a very sheer base. The glitter is blue and purple. Stunning, but I can see that needing like a glitter base to really stand out. Then we have Lead, which is a cool bronze metal. This shade is more of a gunmetal or platinum silver. So it has like a taupey base and then a little bit of silver sheen. Really pigmented, it applies really well in one swipe. Nice. I don't see bronze though, but we'll go with that. Then the last shade is Mercury, which is a green iridescent shimmer. This is another one of those wet sheer iridescent shades. And this one is a white base with that green shift. It's definitely still sheer, but I can see that working as an inner tear duct highlight. So here are the shades from Core Palette 2.0. These aren't as sheer as Core Palette 1.0, but there are a few sheer shades. So these 6 shades, these 4, and then these 2 are more sheer, with the gunmetal shade, which is kind of my favorite, Lead, is a little bit more pigmented. Then we have the matte brown, which is more pigmented as well. And the other shades are like a medium pigmentation, not full on pigment at all. Definitely need to build them up, but here you have Core Palette number 2.0. All right, now that you have seen the swatches, let's discuss the formulations based on what I have experienced. So there seems to be a couple of finishes in each of the palettes. We have what's being called a matte, okay, in both of the palettes. We have this purple that's a matte purple with blue shimmer, and it's like, pick a side. It's either a matte or it's a shimmer. But conceptually, I see where they're going. It's really a satin base shade. So think of a low sheen eyeshadow with a light layer of sparkle to it. So it's not going to be in your face metallic or shimmery or sparkly with a glitter infusion. It's just going to be a slight sheen. So that's what the matte formulas give me. There are also a couple of shades that are more on the satin side, as you saw from the swatches. They give more of a very understated sheen on the skin. Some of them are a little bit more sheer. Some of them apply a little bit more smoothly with a little bit more pigment. And I find them to be the easiest ones to work with. Then we have these creamy, wet formulas, kind of moist formulas. They feel wet to the touch. These 2 white shades in the Core 2.0 palette, these 2 have that wet feel to them, and they are iridescent, so they are more translucent. They just have a bit of a sheen to them. They're perfect for inner tear duct highlights or to pop on the high points of the cheeks. You can even use it under the brow, wherever you want that translucent sparkle. In the Core 1.0, this top shade here, which is Fuel, is that moist kind of wet formula. Then there is a putty type of texture. It's kind of like a cream to powder formula. They have a bit of a firm putty texture to them. So if you press them, you can see an indent of your finger, but they aren't too emollient or too soft and wet feeling. They are still definitely a more creamy feeling, like leather in the Core 1.0. And then the other shades are more on the sparkly side. They have varying levels of sparkle and shimmer to them. Some have more of a sheer base with a sparkle on the top. Some are more of the chunky sparkle with a more pigmented base, but there is no standard finish across the board that I can point out for these eyeshadows, and there are no descriptors on the Sephora website or the Isamaya website. And you can check out that website too if you want to learn more about the brand. But there's not a lot of detail given about these palettes, so I kind of have to play with them myself and get a feel for them. And I'll show you initially when I did the swatches. So Core 1.0, which is in the gold packaging, this is based on the Industrial 1.0 palette. This guy, when I swatched it initially, the swatches were extremely sheer. I could barely get product to show up for the majority of the shades. There were only a couple of shades that really picked up on my skin, but the majority of them left a lot to be desired. And the color story for me just didn't look flattering on my skin tone. And that could be just personal preference, or it just could be my undertones. But this color story, I'm just not in love with. But I feel like if you're into more subtle shimmer, if you're into a wash of color on the eyelids, and you just want a little sparkly sheen, I know people are into that. So if that's what you are looking for, that palette might be right up your alley. Now for the 2.0, this one, which is in the silver packaging, it's based on Industrial 2.0. These shades are a little bit more punchy in the swatches. So I got a lot more color payoff, a lot more intensity, but I still had to build these shades up in the swatches. So I feel like these would work if you like a wash of color, right? Or if you want a little bit more intensity. So these palettes are for very specific tastes. So depending on what you're going for, one palette may suit you over the other. Let's talk about the packaging really quickly before I get into like the product and the performance. So packaging wise, these are little bean shapes. These kind of look like metallic boomerangs a little bit, right? Don't you think so? But they remind me of the bean monument in Chicago. You guys know the bean? Insert bean here. All right. That was my first thought, that these kind of look like the bean crossed with a boomerang. But again, Isamaya is very creative. She has this artistic mind. So I am giving her license to do as she pleases with her brand. But these, they're different shaped, but I don't mind a different shape, something a little bit unique, because they aren't oversized, which I hate oversized palette. They fit in the hand pretty nicely. They're kind of ergonomic to hold. They even have a similar shape to like a painter's palette. Is that just me? So you can open them up and hold them in the little divot and apply your eyeshadow using the mirror in the lid. Easy peasy, it's a bit ergonomic. And then on the front of the palette, we have the Isamaya logo and we have Braille. Now, I don't know what the Braille spells out. Let's see if they're the same for each. Yes, so that is probably the brand name, because it's definitely not the palette number. Yeah, because it's the exact same yeah, it's the same thing. So even though it's Braille, it's not really showing a distinction between each palette. If you got both and you are visually impaired, I don't know how that's going to help you. But Core 1.0 is the gold metallic finish, and then Core 2.0 is the silver finish. If you're visually impaired, obviously that won't make a difference. But if you pick these up and you're not impaired, you'll be able to quickly tell which palette is which just by looking at the colors, which I really appreciate actually. Then inside, right, we have the eyeshadows laid out, different sizes of pans. And there's no rhyme or reason to what shades were selected for which pans, because I feel like the black should have been the smallest pan, And then this beautiful shade should have been larger. And then the white could have been a smaller shade as well. I don't know how they decided which shade went where, because this blue to me could have been smaller, and then this gunmetal, which is kind of my favorite shade in the palette, yeah, that's a decent size. And I like that the white is smaller. I don't know. There's no rhyme or reason. But there's also an insert with the names on the eyeshadow, so no names are printed on the palette, which makes sense because where are you going to print the names there based on the layout? The eyeshadows do take up the majority of the inside of the palette, so good use of space. I appreciate that. So you didn't have to make an oversized palette to hold 14 shades. And then we have the insert again with the shade names on it. And there's also Braille for the shade names. Now that doesn't necessarily tell you what the color is, but if you read the shade descriptions, then you can kind of pinpoint what shade is which. And I did ask this question in a Get Ready With Me video. For those who are visually impaired, how would you do your makeup? Because I'm sure you want to do your makeup, but how do you know if it's blended? How do you know what colors you're picking up? And there were some really great comments giving tips and tricks on how people that are visually impaired would apply their eyeshadows. So I loved hearing that feedback. So if you have more, tell me about it. But overall, even though the Braille is included, I don't know how useful that's going to be for the visually impaired. If you are visually impaired, let me know how helpful it is to have the Braille for the eyeshadow insert, because you kind of have to then line it up with the shades to get what shade is which. And then the pen layout is kind of different. So like, how do you navigate that? Because even though it's trying to be accessible, I feel like it's not as intuitive. But maybe I'm just speaking as somebody who is able to see the eyeshadow, so I can't visualize or conceptualize how I would be able to navigate it if I wasn't able to see the shades. So if you have any feedback on that, let us know in the comments down below. Okay, you've seen the swatches, you've heard about the price point. Okay, let's talk about the product and the performance, because that's where the crux of this review lies. What do I think about the formulation? How did it perform? How did these apply in practice? Do I like these palettes? Okay, initially, I hated these palettes with a passion. When I first swatched them out, I was like, oh my God, these suck so bad, all right? These are really terrible. I'll show you the swatches on my eyes, okay? I said, let me try these out. I'm not even gonna put on eyeshadow primer. I'm just gonna have makeup playtime. I'm going to apply these. I'm going to use a finger. I'm going to use a brush. I'm just gonna swatch these all over my eyes and see what happens, right? Feel the vibe. See if the formula works for me. What is the best technique? Do I need a primer? Do I need moist lids? Do I need to dampen a brush? What do I need to do? So I was playing with these and I hated them so much. First of all, the Core Palette 1.0, girl, these apply like a hot mess. They're very sheer, very difficult to pick up on a brush, very difficult to pick up on my lids, even with a finger. I was not having the best time. And if you use a finger, getting your finger into some of these little pans is not the easiest. So even the finger application, not the best. So to me, this was just too fussy and I hated it. I hated the shades on my eyes. I wasn't having a good time at all with Core Palette number 1. And with that, I was like, oh my God, these are gonna be duds, aren't they? Oh no. But when I swatched Core Palette number 2, I was like, all right, this may be a little bit better. So I went ahead and applied these again, swatched them on my eyes, and I was like, all right, things are looking up. Things are looking a little bit better. I can see what's going on, right? And then I went ahead and I did a look with these. I just applied these in a Get Ready With Me video the way I would typically apply eyeshadow, with my base on and everything, with eyeshadow brushes. I dampened my brush. I used my regular primer and base combination. These worked well, worked beautifully. Even the shades that I thought were going to be questionable still applied well. And I changed my mind. I fell in love with this palette. Core Palette number 2. The color story is more up my alley. The shades are also a little bit more pigmented, a little bit more intense. They don't take as much to build up. You can still get a sheer wash if you just want a sheen on the lids or like a watercolor shine, because Isamaya is big on grungy metallic looks, which I don't hate anymore after using this palette. The shades that I really fell in love with are the gunmetal shade in the middle, which is that big pan, loving that. I also love this brown, really stunning for a smoky look, and this is the matte shade, right? Then even this beetle shade, it doesn't give blue-brown pigment as much as I expected on the eyes. Stunning shade. Even this periwinkle, gorgeous. I can even vibe with the pink. Then we have this rusty shade here, this kind of orangey, coppery gold. All these shades ended up being right up my alley, and I am excited to continue to use this palette. I really like the palette. The formulation is a little bit different from other formulations on the market, and someone made a comment in that Get Ready With Me video saying that, oh, you can accomplish the same look from other eyeshadows on the market. These are nothing special. I'll tell you right now, I have used the vast majority of eyeshadow formulations on the market. Indie brands, high-end brands, mid-range brands, drugstore. And this is different, okay? It's different from other formulations that I have tried in that there's not a heavy base to them. They are not like a thick formula. It's not binder heavy. They are very almost translucent but not sheer at the same time. Like there is a base color to them that glides on really well and leaves this sparkly shine behind that's really a glass-like finish, like the base ingredient. It just gives this ethereal quality that I haven't found in other eyeshadow formulas. Sure, we have sparkly eyeshadows, right? Moondust eyeshadows from Urban Decay. We have Pat McGrath and her baked eyeshadows. Even those I find, those are cute, but this is just different. I can't really put my finger on it, what makes it so different, but the application almost feels a little bit silky on the lids because it's thin, it's lightweight, but there's some punch as you build them up, and they don't get cakey and crepey, and they don't feel heavy on the lids, which is something that can happen with metallic shades and really heavy glitter shades. You can kind of feel them on your eyes. These shades didn't feel like anything on my eyelids. They felt very lightweight and comfortable, and I think that's the difference. The formulation makes them very lightweight, but there's still color to them for the 2.0 palette. For the 1.0, it feels like it looks, okay? It feels light, it feels sheer, it feels like a wash of color on the lids because that's what it looks like, right? But anyhow, 2.0 changed my mind. Like I said, the longevity was there. They lasted well. They didn't crease. Of course, I used eyeshadow primer because I have oily lids, but they didn't fade. They didn't crease. They lasted on the eyes. They stayed shiny. I don't know if you've ever experienced this with a metallic shade. You'll apply it to your lids with a glitter primer, or you may go in with a damp brush, and then over time that shine would fade. These don't fade, and they don't rely on glitter or chunky sparkle to keep that shine. There is something inherent in the formula that makes it shiny, and I think what Patrick Ta was trying to accomplish with his duos is what Isamaya accomplished with these eyeshadows. So really love 2.0. 1.0? No. And I'll tell you right now, I'm returning this one. I don't like it. The black shade I can do without. This shade over here, which is Heat, broke apart. I didn't even do anything to it and it broke apart. The other shades are just so sheer and they feel, they just feel very, it's not a word, right? But unsubstantial. I know it's not a word, but work with me, all right? The wet shade Fuel, that little moist shade, it doesn't pick up well. There's only a couple of shades here that are workable for me on my complexion, for my preferences, and just based on how I would like these to look. This just doesn't work. It's dull. It's understated when compared to the 2.0. So if I was going to recommend anything, don't get this one. Not for $110. Girl, I'm bringing this right back. So let me just put it back in the box because I'll go back tomorrow. But I am returning this one. I am keeping the 2.0. Now for the price point, $110 for 14 shades. Now, obviously, I have spent $100 or more for an eyeshadow palette. Pat McGrath, Danessa Myricks. I've gotten 10 shades for $125. I have gotten 18 shades for $128. 14 shades for $110 is not a crazy stretch for me, but the palette doesn't feel substantial. It doesn't feel weighted, which may be a pro or a con depending on how you look at it. Some people see those price points and think luxury. So the palette should feel weighted and heavy and it should be this luxurious feel. That's not what you're getting here. It's not necessarily lightweight, but it's not going to give you that heavy, like hardcore feel of a Danessa Myricks palette or a Pat McGrath palette. These are a little bit more lightweight. So you're not going to feel the luxury in the packaging, okay? So the price point is going to hit you like a brick. It's not worth $110. I would not spend $110 on this. If you can get this on sale, get that 20% off, then I would say try it out. And even at that discounted price, it's still a bit steep. So this would have to be something you want to try out for yourself. If you are into that shiny formula that is not overly glittery or chunky and you want to try something that's a little bit different than what's out there on the market, then I say go ahead and try it at that discounted rate. At that full price, it's pushing it. I really can't with good conscience say it's worth that $110. Okay, discounted, I got it for $88 plus tax, so like 90 something dollars. Even that was pushing it for me, but I'm happy I have it now. I'm going to enjoy it. Going to return this one, but I wanted to show you guys these in action. Again, I have a get ready with me video. I'll link it over here and link it down below where you can see this in action when I'm applying this to the lids. I really enjoyed the 2.0 palette. This is a keeper. I can't wait to use it some more. Like I said, the shades surprised me once they went on the eyes. They were so beautiful, so stunning, and I loved working with the formulation. This one, not so much. So those are my final thoughts. It's kind of split, right? I like the formula, but it's very specific and it has to be worth it to you. I wouldn't say run out and get it, but it's worth a try if it's within your budget. Skip the 1.0 if you don't like sheer shadows or if you're my complexion and you expect a little bit more punch to your eyeshadows. Skip it. All right, those are my final thought. Let me know if you found this video helpful. I do hope so because that was my intention. I will go ahead and leave links on where you can pick these up. Those will be affiliate links, which means I will get a small sales commission if you make a purchase through those links. Doesn't change the sale price, but it gives me a kickback for you using my links. So I really appreciate it if you show your support that way for the channel because it helps me to put right back into the content. I also have YouTube thanks, YouTube memberships that work as a tip jar if you wanted to give me a little something to support, again, the channel and the content. And until my next video, which will be very soon, I'll talk to you. Bye, guys.